You may have seen them around if you're a frequent flyer. Swissport. They currently operate at 285 airports all over the world. At these airports they handle ground, passenger and cargo operations for airlines and airports. So what does Swissport offer exactly, and why do airlines and airports use them? And how did the 25-year-old company grow so quickly that it became one of the global players in the market? Let's talk aviation. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe. This really helps the channel grow and makes it easier for others to find. To start off, what does Swissport do exactly? You can divide it up into 3 divisions: passenger services, ground handling and cargo handling. First, the passenger services. While airlines often have their own employees doing check-in at the hubs of the airline, at most other destinations, airlines need others to do this for them. This is where companies like Swissport come into play. They can take over the passenger services, like check-in and helping disabled passengers, so that the airlines don't have to have their own staff at each and every destination. The second pillar of Swissport's business is ground handling. After a plane lands, the turnaround begins. Just like with the passenger services, airlines often don't have a ground crew at the ready at each airport. To that end, they will use contractors like Swissport to do the refueling, cleaning and luggage handling for them. Cargo airlines are just like passenger airlines in this aspect. They don't have their own crew at each and every airport, and for them, Swissport offers to take over the cargo handling. Now that you have an idea what types of services Swissport offers, let's have a look at the company's history. As you can imagine, it can be quite beneficiary for companies like Swissport to have a large presence at many airports around the world. And that's just what Swissport did, as they have been expanding rapidly in the first years of their operations. If you look at this graph, you can see that the company has been adding new airports rapidly in its first years and didn't stop then. Swissport started back in 1996 as the ground handling division of its parent company, Swissair, the now defunct Swiss flag carrier. They started at 3 airports in Switzerland: Zurich, Geneva and Basel. Quickly, the company expanded into the UK, Germany and Brazil. They grew rapidly in the first years, and via the acquisition of Dinair and Aer Lingus ground handling, they serve over 100 airports, just 3 years after they started. In 2002, Swissport is sold for the first time. The British private equity firm Kendover acquires the company right when the company started up its cargo division via an acquisition of their own. While the number of airports at which Swissport operates doesn't rise that sharply anymore in these years, the company is busy expanding their services at the airports they do operate at. In 2005, Swissport is sold once again, this time to the Spanish construction company Ferrovial, the company that would be later involved in building Terminal 2 at London Heathrow. Swissport keeps diversifying its portfolio and now also takes on security services at airports. As you can see, they keep expanding their existing locations by trying to become sort of a one-stop shop for both airlines and airports. 5 years after Ferrovial bought the company, they sell it once more, this time to the French private equity firm PAI for $909 million. After a couple of years of slow growth, Swissport is growing once again by adding 88 airports in a matter of only 2 years via the acquisition of Flightcare and Swissair. Then, in 2016, you guessed it, Swissport was sold once again, this time to the HNA Group for $2.8 billion. The Chinese holding company has stakes in over a dozen airlines. The acquisition is part of a shift towards the booming Asian aviation market. But then came 2020. The pandemic hit Swissport hard. In April of 2020, Swissport lost 89% of its passengers and 29% of its cargo business. The company was forced to take drastic measures and had to let go of a large part of its workforce. At the end of the year, the HNA Group handed over the shares of the company to a new group of investors that took it upon themselves to restructure the debt, which had risen to over $2 billion. A year later, in 2021, the company grew after a steep fall in 2020, but was still nowhere near 2019 levels. On the passenger side, they were serving not even half the number of passengers and planes compared to 2019, and the cargo division, which was least affected, grew by 10%. How will the future look like for Swissport? Nobody knows. Before the pandemic, the company looked healthy, and I think it had to do with their expansion strategy. By adding more and more airports and services to its portfolio, they were able to become one of the largest in the market. And keep in mind, while Swissport was hit hard, so were its competitors. Did you know about the services of Swissport and their history? Do you think they will bounce back from the pandemic? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and please consider subscribing to Let's Talk Aviation. And if you have a suggestion for a future video, feel free to let me know. I look forward to hearing what you would like to see here at Let's Talk Aviation.